do that. 11. What? How many times have you been pregnant?
3.
This is your 3rd pregnancy?
Yes.
You have 2 babies
It's
at
in
home?
my ass.
You have 2 babies at home? Who's your doctor?
Lang is her doctor. Y'all treat all your patients like this or just the black ones?
Whatever is the personality patient for you. Alright, last name is Jones. She's G3B2. I'm not sure what her due date is.
Her due date
I
is
just
the
said
10th.
it was the 10th.
I think her due date is the 10th.
She got 3 pregnancies, 2 babies at home. I bet y'all listen next time. When you found out you was delivering at this hospital, your ass should have changed doctors.
Thank you.
Everybody say how they treat people.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
are you able to call the anesthesiologist?
Someone is coming to take you to labor and delivery.
That's not what I asked.
I cannot, no.
Hey ladies, welcome back to the channel. I know a lot of you have seen that video by now. I personally, I can't even watch the complete video. I haven't because it's just too hard to watch. I just wanted to just make a video on this real quick. I'm about to get on the treadmill, but everybody's talking about the racism in nursing and in these hospitals, how black women are treated. And the one thing that I want to point out to black women is that where was her family? Where was her community? These things continue to happen to black women because we keep having babies without a community. If we had a community, our own people could be delivering these babies and we wouldn't have to worry about this. If our men, I'm not even gonna say our men, y'all please forgive me for saying that because we don't have any men. Obviously, we don't have any men. I get mad when I hear women saying our men, so I don't know why the hell I just said that. Please forgive me. If we had men who built hospitals for us to be safe in, even if she had a counterpart that was there advocating for her, stuff like this wouldn't happen. Like, that's the one thing I want black women to realize, is that you don't have men who are going to fight for you and advocate for you in these situations, so these situations will continue to happen. So any black woman that is still having babies by these men in 2025, you have to know that this is what you are at risk of. Unless you know a doula or a midwife personally that can come to your house and deliver that baby and advocate for you, or you have family that can advocate for you, I don't suggest that you have babies right now, because this has happened thousands, hundreds of thousands of times in this country. So y'all should fear being pregnant, and this is why. This is why this woman had no care, no heart to help this woman. And everybody is talking about the racism and the hatred. What about the lack of care and love coming from our own community to even come together and make places for us safe enough to have these kids? What about that? So I don't want to say too much, but I'm going to get into what everybody else had to say about this situation, and I will talk to you ladies later. Bye.
Exactly did you catch when you were watching that viral video of a woman 12 minutes out from giving birth dealing with this redheaded nurse? Did it remind you of your mother-in-law? Did it remind you about being a fancy black person, maybe shopping for something, having an accent in the wrong place? Do you think you can spot when someone checks their social status against yours? Let's process it and the feeling of powerlessness and anger that you had watching that video together. So at the now infamous Dallas Regional Medical Center, a young black woman has come in because she is about to give birth. She's actively in labor. The nurse knows this. The universal medical standard of care is that this woman would have been rushed to labor and delivery where she could be monitored. Whatever extra details that they needed to get could have been taken from the person who was accompanying her along the way. And this mother in particular had apparently already sent her information ahead. She had established care at this hospital. Here she is, wailing in pain, going nowhere as the nurse stalls. There was zero sense of urgency, and there was absolutely no patient assurance. The nurse keeps mother and baby in the intake room. Now, we could say nurses are used to pain. They've seen hundreds of births. They're not going to freak out, as one might say. But we're not talking about freaking out here. We're talking about someone who knows that the person in front of them has not lived through hundreds of births and who is in pain and in need of medical attention. The nurse is very aware that this woman is frightened and in pain and is about to do one of the hardest things any human being can ever do. And she shows, literally no exaggeration, you could go watch the video, zero empathy or concern or any reaction to the black lady's pain. And what this medical professional is aware of with every minute that she waits is that she's putting the mother and baby at risk of something being missed. She's keeping this woman from the chance to be monitored. She is slowing down and preventing the process for any pain relief or oversight to get in place. If there's an emergency happening, which she can't know in the intake room because, again, no one is monitoring her, these couple of seconds or minutes can be the difference between life or death for the mother and child. On top of the unnecessary delay, the lack of connection and concern being shown here is absolutely adding to the patient's stress, which is also stressing the baby that's about to be born. That stress on a person's nervous system has a weathering effect that can make them more likely to die. The family has reported back that the baby did have complications during and after the birth. The nurse failed to do her job, and she did it in the grand tradition of nurses using their position of power to status check people. This is one more link in the long chain of maternal health crises for Black and Indigenous women in America, not because of their class, not because of other comorbidities, not because of issues they've had with childbirth before, but because of medical negligence and racism. Lack of response is a form of weaponized negligence that looks at a Black woman and goes, she can take it, she's tough. We could also say we saw here malicious compliance, where somebody uses the cover of the process to delay having to service or care for you. They're policing you or punishing you for daring to even come here and ask for services and resources in the first place. People walk around with this idea of who they are and what their space looks like. And when you come into their space as a Black person or a fancy Black person or somebody who needs them to take care of them, there's a level of thinking that I'm too good to be taking care of this person. I am too good in this situation, this store, this shoe, this bag, whatever it is. It's too good for the people who are asking for these services. So I'm going to make it expensive for them to be here. So they use their jobs to covertly assert dominance. They argue, you can't buy this item at the listed price, you must be wrong. They move slowly and they intentionally do not give you the same customer service that they would give everybody else, or in this case, bedside manner. Well, maybe people are having a bad day or they're bad at their job. Here's how most people operate in a society. They are walking around with an internal story of who they are and who other people are. They also have a social hierarchy in their mind. We humans rely on a lot of visual shorthand to fill in ideas about what we're seeing in front of us or who we're seeing in front of us. Our internal hierarchy, that is developed over time by our culture, the people who raised us, the social circles we're in, or the media we consume. History is not just about events that took place, but the cultural memory that developed around them, the meaning and significance we have given to the things that have happened, and the norms we have normalized. You can thank Harriet Washington and her brilliant team for coming up with a comprehensive medical history of America. It's called Medical Apartheid. It explains how a place like the Dallas Regional Medical Center can hire someone like that and think that they don't have a problem. What we learn is that the entire birth and foundation for medical gynecology in America is through and because of enslaved Black female bodies. So many of the quick advancements in gynecology happened because you didn't need to ask for consent on women that you purchased and enslaved. You don't have to waste money on anesthesia or finding new people to keep testing this on because you can just keep testing on the same people you own. It wasn't just Black women. It was a way to continue to make money off of enslaved people who could no longer be squeezed for profit. So if you had someone who'd been injured because of your abusive work tactics, you could sell them for experimentation. This was normal. This is just like a really cruel, bad chapter in a tiny section of American medical history. No, it was its foundation. And it wasn't 4 years before the Civil War and just a couple years after. It was multiple generations. To this day, there are people and families that are bearing the scars of recent decades of medical experimentation and unethical access to Black bodies. People that were tricked. White bodies and white mothers were considered and classed as people who felt more pain and were much more delicate. To this day, there are young medical students right now running around with myths and assumptions and biases about Black skin thickness and pain reception. There are a lot of assumptions about what makes a Black person sick. And then we're also dealing with a situation where it's considered bad or woke to look at the interlocking factors that could affect why someone is in the situation that they're in, like ecological racism or pollution. The wider American culture at the time excused and hid this, and currently continues to excuse and hide this. Why do you think certain things are getting defunded? This is why, with the same money, same healthcare, same hospital, a Black woman could walk into the same situation as a white woman and be 3 times more likely to die giving birth. It's not about genetics, it's about negligence. This slow-moving, dismissive care is procedural violence. Additionally, because enslavement was the economic power engine that could make the American economy the superpower it was, it depended on producing more enslaved people, which meant taking away, and never giving, I should say, reproductive freedom to Black women. To keep it profitable and to keep it cheap, you weren't necessarily worried about the maternal health conditions. You weren't necessarily looking over all of the labor and delivery. This is a huge part of why bodily autonomy is not the state's default position towards women or Black women. It's simply not profitable. So you have this huge group of people that's stewing in old ideas and new recycled ones about how it's Black and brown people who are lazy and taking their resources. It's immigrants who are the reason why there's a housing crisis. There's an infestation of certain kinds of people. Do you think that when those women walk in to give birth, that people are going to necessarily treat them with respect and dignity? Tough and aggressive people who have too many kids, they're not going to get top care. Racism, long after it's used to be a social technology that produces a certain caste system, it becomes an internal form of narcissism, a way to stroke your ego. This white nurse was not going to be seen rushing to take care of a Black lady. Did that Black baby matter with the way she was acting? No. Did that lady's pain matter? Also no. She used, as many people have, her standing to check the other person. It was cruel, it was deliberate, and it was calculated. We tend to think that racist action, sexist action, people who are not welcoming you into their family, that they will announce it, that they will put on a hood, that they will say, I am saying a racist or mean thing, or you are less than me. We tend to think that unless they fully admit right there that I am doing this because I'm racist, that maybe it isn't. But it's not politically or socially expedient to telegraph status in a way that you could get caught. Because the point of this kind of behavior is not to be heard saying it. It is to get a certain outcome, to make you feel a certain way. How do we push back? We articulate what is happening to us. Because like James Baldwin said, once we articulate the situation, we're no longer the victim. We're a threat to that system. We support each other with doulas, birth funds, and looking for ways to fund community scholarships. We do what this grandmother did, which is film and share the story. Nurses at the Dallas Regional Medical Center and beyond might continue to see Black women as pests and problems. We know, like Lucy, Betsy, and Anakra, who are memorialized here, that Black women's bodies were the sites of so many solutions. This profession owes so much to the unimaginable horror and pain that those women endured. People who are watching their research be rolled back, people who have lost their mothers and their wives and their sisters and just human beings to this crisis know that there's no real moving on from this. But there is moving forward with an awareness of what came before us. What increased digital power we now have to call this out and hold people accountable. The ways we can come together to spot and articulate this behavior in all the different ways it occurs and call it what it is. To the Dallas Regional Medical Center, you have a nurse that is too dangerous to be around Black women. To the rest of us, get Harriet Washington's book and don't be afraid to stay woke. It could literally save your life.
Normal for them to get the paperwork and get all of your history and stuff in the computer. What's not normal is the demeanor and the attitude that the nurse had towards her. There was no type of comforting words. There was no acknowledgement. I'm more disgusted by the behavior of the nurse, not the whole intake process. What pisses me off is that she's clearly in a lot of pain. She's in discomfort. things could have been handled differently. If you're going into the hospital like that, you're screaming in pain, they need to be handling it differently. And no one else was in that room doing anything. That nurse was sitting there calling doctor's offices or whatever, but there was no sense of urgency. And I'm sorry, but giving birth is like life and death, okay? Unfortunately, I know of a mom who got septic and passed away right after she gave birth. I think we forget that even though you're in a hospital setting, it is still extremely dangerous and things can go wrong. There should have been some kind of sense of urgency, empathy, sympathy, something from the nurse. I don't care that we're overworked or whatever. That doesn't mean that you deserve bad care.
So, I was at work. I had no idea of the activity that was going on. My daughter's texting me, calling me. I didn't know what was going on. So finally I get home, they tell me about the video, and a lot of you was asking about a follow-up and to explain the situation. So this is the situation. My daughter went into active labor at home. We took her to the hospital. She called ahead of time, so we know they are expecting us. However, we get there to the emergency room, we watching nurses, putting gloves on, running to the door. They get outside of the door, and I drive a black SUV, and they look at my vehicle, and one of the nurses come up to the window, and she goes, I'm sorry, this is for ambulance only. I said, well, my daughter is in active labor. And she was like, okay, she said, but you're going to have to go to the front. I'm like, I have to drive to the front. And they said, yeah, you have to drive to the front. Okay, another redhead. And so I'm like, so she's you hear, and it was like, yeah, she started bagging up, hit the button, went back inside the building. So I go around to the front. I get out of the car. Again, this girl is in more pain now than she was when we first left the house. And she started saying, I feel pressure, I feel pressure. I said, take deep breaths. I ran in. I said, hey, my daughter's in the car. I went to emergency. They told me I had to come to the front. So the lady was like, what's your daughter's name? Told her Kiara Jones. She gets out some paperwork, started typing in the name. I was like, ma'am, do you have a wheelchair or anything? She's in the car. I need to get her in. Oh, if you check on the other side of those doors where the vending machine's at, there should be a wheelchair out there. There's no wheelchair out there. So she gets up, she walks in the back, and she come to the door with a wheelchair. She said, here you go, ma'am. I said, excuse me, you're not going to come with me? And she was like, no. Oh, okay. So, a police officer was in the lobby. He gets up. He grabbed a wheelchair. He goes out the door with me. He said, come on, I got you. Went out there. She is on hands and knees in the back of the vehicle. And I'm like, oh, shit, what is going on? And then she goes, it's in my ass. And I was like, what? And the guy was like, and she was like, he said, okay, and she was like, give me a minute. She could not move. So when that contraction eased, we put her in a wheelchair. He said, you can go park your car, because they, again, had people out there. So I went park my car. It wasn't even 30 seconds. I run back in the building. She's just there with a stack of papers in her hand, screaming that this baby is coming. This baby is coming. I look at the registers behind the window, and they looking at me, and they was like, well, we can't do anything until she signed the papers. Are you fucking kidding me? So I grabbed the papers, and of course, it's all ER bullshit that they have. And I was like, you want her to sign this, and she's in active labor. And they was like, okay. I was like, ma'am, she was supposed to be induced earlier today at 8 o'clock.
Mind you that the birth rate is so low that they're trying to pay women, white women specifically, $5,000 in America to give birth. Mind you, the birth rate is so low in America, I can go out over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the busiest days when people are out and about and shopping. And I can't even count on one hand the amount of babies that I will run into in a public space. Like, if any of y'all see babies like on a regular, please let me know, because I rarely see babies or little people in public.
Called and told her that they will call her because they didn't, and they will let her know. And no one ever called back. They called back every hour on an hour, and it was like, no, we'll call you back. And then finally, her water break, she called them. They tell her to come in. So why is she signing these papers? We need her in labor and delivery. And it was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. So the charge nurse comes out. And she saw the paper signed. What fucking, are you serious right now? And she closes the door. And then the lady behind the window at this point, my daughter, scribbled her name.
Okay, y'all. So I'm just now realizing that her mother was there with her, I'm guessing, from this. And I'm like, I can't imagine, why weren't y'all like cussing these people out? Like, I don't know. They stayed really calm because I didn't hear nobody cussing this lady out in the video. Did y'all? I don't know. Maybe it's just me that would have cussed them out. Like, I don't know if that would have solved anything, but I would have had somebody moving my daughter somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm just different.
She says, thank you. She walked it around to the charge nurse. She opened up the door. My daughter is literally like having a contraction. And she's just standing there in the door. So we push her into the door. I said, can we get her into labor and delivery? She said, no, we have to fill out all this paperwork. I have to do the paperwork and get her a band before we can send her upstairs. So that was the video that you guys saw that I initially posted. So the next video that has no picture on it was when I was pushing her in and we was at the window because they asked me to move her from the window so they can take care of the guests or, patients that was coming in and out. Do not go to this hospital. This hospital is ghetto as hell. They do not care about black women or their babies. This is crazy. I read about stuff like this all the time. But to see this firsthand, this lady did not care. None of them. It wasn't until we got into labor and delivery where we saw an ounce of care or sympathy for her. Before then, they can care less. She did not care if she gave birth in that wheelchair. That was not her problem or her concern.
Standing ovation. Can you say LACRISTA VAUGHN is no longer employed? No longer employed. No longer employed at Dallas Regional Medical Center. No longer. Yes, honey. LACRISTA is no longer employed. Yeah, you know the nurse. I hate to call her my colleague, but she is my colleague. And they got an address out here. They got her nursing license number on here. They got a phone number. It is so many things that's floating around. And it should be. But all I'm saying is, guys, don't dox her like that and put her information out there because that's not good at all. But what she did was totally insane, unhumane, heartless. You saw that lady was in full active labor. And you did nothing. All you did was sit there and ask questions. At the end of the day, as a nurse, we take an oath. We are advocates for patients. We're supposed to offer compassion. We're supposed to have compassion. And remember, this is something that you can't be trained or taught. You have to be embedded in you. And when we come into this role as nurses, we have to be displaying all those things. Because people come to the hospital, coming to the doctor to get help, and they want to see a smiling, friendly face that's willing to help us. LACRISTA VAUGHN, next, your license are getting ready to go because what you did was unethical. Unethical. No investigation needed because it's all over the internet. If one doctor is talking, no, it's 12 doctors that are talking. And if they're talking, you know what you did was totally unacceptable, unexplainable. LACRISTA VAUGHN, LACRISTA VAUGHN, LACRISTA VAUGHN. You found out exactly how powerful the internet is. And when the next person that do something, we're going to bring them down as well.
The video I just watched is absolutely horrifying. There is footage circulating on social media right now of a young black pregnant mother in active labor arriving to an emergency department, and instead of receiving urgent, compassionate care, the triage nurse appears to be more focused on completing paperwork than focusing on the human life right in front of her. It appears she doesn't visibly check her, no fetal monitoring, no stabilization, instead forms in a mother that is in active labor. This is a medical emergency, and in that moment, she appears to be completely ignored. No empathy, no humanity, just cold, and that is completely unacceptable. My heart goes out to that mother. I hope with all my being that she and her baby are okay, because we as healthcare workers, we should be the ones that embody light, hope, compassion, humanity. But in this case, all of that was missing. And here's the hard truth. This is not an isolated incident. Black women in the United States are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. 3 times. If you saw that video and if what you witnessed is an obvious display of discrimination and you felt your blood boil, you are not alone, because I am fired up too. Because this is entirely preventable. And as caregivers and as healers, we must demand better from ourselves and from our system. And to that young mother, I truly hope you're okay. I hope someone stepped in. I hope you were heard, and I hope you were seen. To my fellow healthcare workers, we need to do better. We must show up. We must listen. We must take action, because every mother deserves dignity. Every baby deserves life. And
Whatever
every
you're doing right
patient
now, I need you to
deserves
stop
humanity.
and watch this video.
Fuck!
When's your due date?
Right now!
So you don't have to be an OBGYN. You don't have to have any medical knowledge to know that this woman is in distress.
Is your due date 11?
For those primal screams, not to invoke an ounce of humanity. Think about that.
What?
How many times have you been pregnant?
Seriously, who gives a fuck? A baby's coming.
3!
This is your 3rd pregnancy?
Yes!
You have 2 babies
It's
at
in
home?
my ass!
3rd baby, it's in my ass, means she's gonna have a baby on the floor unless she gets that woman to a room now.
You have 2 babies at home? Who's your doctor?
Lang is her doctor.
Let's talk about this Dallas video, because it's not just bad behavior, it's dangerous, it's discriminatory, and it's why black women in this country keep dying. The young woman's in active labor, and clinically we all know that priorities shift. Intake stops, and your eyes should be on that mom and the baby. But instead, we're watching a nurse sit there asking frivolous questions while a black woman is clearly in distress, progressing, and not treated with the urgency and dignity that she deserves. It's not just rude, it's dangerous. It's egregious, and it's actually disgusting medical care. And I need y'all to understand something, that as a black OBGYN, this is not an isolated incident. This is a culture. And this is what happens when a healthcare system that is not designed for anyone outside the majority, this is how it affects and shapes the legacy and how black women are treated in real time. This is our maternal mortality numbers. This is how black women end up ignored, undiagnosed, untreated, and unprotected. It's a bias, it's systematic, and it's behavior like this that gets passed down, normalized, excused. This is a culture problem in Dallas, Texas probably as a whole. And a culture doesn't change with a press release. It changes with accountability, retraining, leadership, consequences, and a refusal to let people like this touch patients. So, in closing, black women deserve urgency,
compassion, and clinical excellence. This ain't it. What we saw was unacceptable, and it's time that the healthcare system finally stops pretending that this doesn't happen. You need to do better.
This video is infuriating because my wife, she has had 3 kids. I understand the process. I understand the pain of it also. Black women are more likely to die. I believe it's 3 to 1, more likely to die in childbirth. And according to some studies, it's because of things like this, where they're not taken seriously for the pain that they're going through. This is unacceptable to the highest degree.
Hi. Did you all see the video of that
Shame on
young
you.
black woman literally giving birth in a wheelchair inside of a hospital because the nurse next to her just didn't care? This woman is screaming in pain, clearly in distress, and this nurse is asking her benign questions that could clearly be answered bedside or, I don't know, at a different time. This nurse showed zero care, zero aptitude for nurture, and she should be held accountable. This is what systemic racism looks like, because this is putting a black mother in danger because someone decided they couldn't be bothered. They're not in a hurry today. I'm sorry, but if you cannot recognize pain in a human being because she's black, you have no business being in healthcare. No business being anywhere near a labor and delivery floor. You should be reassigned to shelving books in alphabetical order in the hospital library, bitch. Black moms deserve better. Black families deserve better. Black pain is real. And if that sentence bothers you or surprises you, you have no business in healthcare.
This is a registered nurse named LACRISTA VAUGHN, and she sat here with complete disregard for a woman in active labor, screaming in pain, asking for help. And she responds to her and says, "I cannot help you." This isn't even the first time she's been caught on camera with, in my opinion, a complete disregard for her patients. A black trans man came in from having seizures, and according to him, he was treated like he was on substances, which, by the way, even if someone was, they still deserve to be cared for. The woman that she treated this way, a black woman who is already at a higher risk, she ended up delivering her baby 12 minutes after getting out of triage. Her baby had their first bowel movement while still inside of her. However, we have an update that they are doing well physically. You can't tell me as a nurse that she is not aware of the statistics of black women in healthcare. To look at her in the eyes and say that I can't help you. And for anyone who's ever had a baby, you know how horrible this type of pain is. And I guess the hospital, allegedly, in my opinion, doesn't like all this attention because they shut down their comments. I found this post very concerning where she says, "Any suggestions on switching specialties? Looking at moving from ER to labor and delivery. Are there any open residencies in DFW?" Thank God she didn't find an open residency or she changed her mind, because she, in my opinion, shouldn't be in labor and delivery, the ER, or any type of job that involves any type of care for human life. Giving birth to your baby should be a magical, safe experience where doctors and nurses believe you and they treat you with dignity and care. This mother should be able to go home and enjoy being with her baby and have walked away feeling safe, and they got the exact opposite. For what reason? I would love to hear in her words why she treated her that way. And lastly, for anyone who believes that there isn't racism in the medical field because maybe you're a nurse and you would never do that, if you can see a video like this and not see that this is happening, you're part of the problem.
I want y'all to stop sharing that video. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that moment, you are witnessing God in action. You are witnessing a goddess bring forth life. You are witnessing, you are looking at God happening. For her to be being as disrespected as she is in her God state is blasphemy. To have her screams being posted as she is being divine is disrespectful and dishonorable. So I want y'all to stop reposting that video. That's one. Two, I want y'all to stop and listen, because we need to have a real fucking conversation, black women. Okay? This is not a game. I don't know if y'all understand that not only am I a critical care RN with 15 years of experience, I'm also a trained doula and birth worker by design, okay? My spirit has helped birth babies. I know it, I feel it. This is not new work to me. The formal training was just a way for me to bring forth the gift. Now is the time for you to start focusing on your bodies if you are going to birth. Somewhere down the line, we allowed them to take our divinity, our God, our godliness, because that's what giving birth is. That is our godliness. That is our goddessness. That is our creator energy. We allowed them to take it and turn it into a medical situation with us laying on our backs, strapped down, forced to birth into cold technology like we are cattle. We are inducing labor at alarming rates. Women walk into a doctor's office and say they're tired of being pregnant and schedule an induction, which means they're going to lay your body down and pump you full of substances that will artificially force your body into labor, placing you and the infant in grave danger. This is not a fucking vacation. You are playing with your lives behind these walls, bringing your babies into this world with no connection. All of the God essence that you need is being blotted out by the cold lights and the fluids and the cervical checks. They are desecrating a sacred moment, and you are playing into it. Now is the time to start. If you want to birth, you start finding you a doula. You start looking at a midwife. You prepare your body. You give it the food that it needs, the exercise that it needs. You don't lay your ass on a table, sick from high blood pressure, diabetes, lupus, sarcoidosis, and all kinds of other, a body riddled with diseases, and trust them to bring another life in here safely. You are not a cow. Having a doula can decrease your chance for a C-section by 60%. That is an astronomical number. Stop playing, y'all. There is a reason why Black women are 4.2 times more likely to die than any other woman. It's a reason why our babies are 5 times more likely to die. Look what they're doing to her. That's God. Look how God is being treated. Stop this shit. Stop. Have a good one.
Yeah.
See, it's the same stuff and it's not changing. It's not changing.
See, it's not changing. So when the teacher is telling you,
Treat all your patients like this or just the Black ones?
But it's kind of hard to watch. No mother should be in labor in a wheelchair for 30 minutes begging for help. I get it. The burnout is real. But this right here, unacceptable. ER will make you callous or just work in the hospital altogether. But if I ever get to the point where I ignore a patient or don't believe their pain, that's my sign to walk away from nursing. Do you believe or do you think this was burnout or negligence? Comment below and let's talk about it. Have a good day.
Emergency room nurse, we don't claim her. As a current labor and delivery nurse, we don't claim her. And as a woman, we definitely don't claim her. And if you don't know who she is, you're sadly about to find out. Her telling you exactly what's happening to her body. Black women are still 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than their white counterparts, than people that look like me. So not only is this nurse disrespecting this woman who's clearly about to have a baby in a wheelchair, she is also exponentially adding to her birth trauma. Because regardless of whatever the outcome of this situation was, she's going to take that with her in her postpartum journey. And unfortunately, people being treated like this in the hospital setting is going to push more and more moms into home births where maybe they didn't want a home birth before, or maybe it's not safe for them to have a home birth. If this is how I was treated when I was having a baby and no one believed me and no one respected me and no one helped me, I sure as wouldn't want to come back and do it again. Do you want to know my rule in a situation like this? It's birth first, chat later, because all of those details that she's asking, they aren't going to change after she gives birth to her baby. Also, shout out to the queen behind the camera, because a lot of times we say things like advocate for yourself, but that becomes really, really difficult when your body's sole purpose goes inward and it goes to safely birthing your baby. Because I can guarantee you, she was thinking everything that lady was saying. And if you've had a similar experience, let me know your name in the comments. We're going to say it out loud. And then hopefully that redheaded nurse is going to see this video and realize that she is perpetuating a very big problem. Do better.
I'm going to talk to you about something. So I am a former labor and delivery nurse, and now I'm an ER nurse. There are certain sounds that women make when they're in labor, and especially right before delivery, that I can't not hear and know what's going on. I can't. So I'm going to tell you what this video is like. So there's a woman sitting in the wheelchair, clearly miserable in pain, clearly miserable in pain. But I can hear pushes, because when you get to complete, your body will push because of the pressure. So what that looks like is women are maybe making noises because they're uncomfortable, but in those noises, they're grunty noises, the little stress, little push. She was clearly making those freaking noises. And the woman, the person checking her in, clearly needs to not be a nurse anymore, because she was typing on a computer, asking someone in the very last stage of labor questions that are not relevant in that point in time. We're getting ready to have a baby. That woman's GMP status, G3P2 is what she was irrelevant. Irrelevant. The questions that she asked that woman, she can ask after you check on her safety and after you make sure you don't have a baby in a wheelchair while you're sitting there typing on your computer. Now listen, we all have bad days as nurses. We all have days where we're burnt out. I get it. How in the world can you ignore what was going on in front of you? Because listen, if that was a labor and delivery floor, that noise, you can't not hear it. Once you've heard it enough, you know what's going to happen. Not one time did that person typing on the computer look over to make sure that the woman who was in biker shorts, there wasn't a bulge in her biker shorts where the baby had already been out. Not once. I am so sorry that this happened. I have had my fair share of scares in the emergency room because I used to be a labor and delivery nurse, and I know what's coming, and I'm not going to waste my time. They roll into the front, and I can hear screaming, and I can hear it. I'm going straight up to them. Do you feel pressure? How many babies have you had? Okay, let's go. And there was a time where we couldn't go because I knew what was getting ready to happen. Those questions are not your priority. Just FYI. You got a baby coming. You need to make sure mom is safe. You need to make sure baby's safe. You need to make sure baby hadn't crowned and had been sitting there for a while. What? Oh, do better. Quit your job. It's time. You quit. Go find a different job. Go find a different job. This isn't for you.